Karen and Jake. If you're here watching this video, you're probably interested in some form of effective communication. So that means you're probably thinking about how can you communicate better to get your messages across, to get your kids or your employees to do what you want them to do, how to make yourself understood, how to communicate in a clear and concise way, anything like that. Maybe that's the reason you're here. And so that's what we're going to talk about. But as I always like to do, I don't want to just talk about theoretical things that you could do. I want to give you a real example of how to communicate effectively in a certain situation. So this little story that I want to tell you is a true story, and it's very short, very brief, but I think it's really short, sweet, and to the point. It's a story that I heard while I was on a cruise ship. I was in a coaching program, a year-long coaching program that took us to different places. And one of the places that we went to in our group was we took a cruise in the Caribbean. Anyway, I remember that this entrepreneur, his name is Russell Brunson, he made available to us 4 of his employees. And we could ask them anything we wanted for like an hour and a half. And so it was really interesting. It's kind of like whenever you really want something, whenever you're really thinking and focusing on something, your antennas just go up. And when you hear something that goes in that direction, you're like, and that's exactly how I felt when I heard this. One of the people in my group asked Karen, who was one of the 4 employees, he asked her, he said, what do you appreciate most about your boss, who was this entrepreneur? She thought about it for a second and she said, well, I would say that he really knows how to get his message across to me. And so, I'm very curious with that very short response. The same person asked, he said, can you please go into a little bit more detail? Help us understand what you mean by that. Well, first of all, it's important for you to know that Karen was responsible for copywriting. So her principal role in the company was to write things. She wrote for the website, she wrote for the web, she wrote company communications. So that's what she did for her profession. She said, whenever my boss wants something from me, wants to give me some indication about what he wants, he knows that all I need is to hear his words. I just need him to tell me what he wants. I will take notes. I take responsibility for understanding everything. I take notes with my words, kind of translating what he said into the way I understood it. Then I'll read it back to him and I'm good. I don't really need anything else. And so in a practical situation, like let's say he's at a distance, so he might just call me and tell me what he wants. He might send me a voice message and just tell me what he wants. If he's sitting in front of me, he'll just talk to me and I take notes and I'm good. And so the same person who asked that question thought that was really interesting. And so he wanted to hear some of the other people. So he asked Jake the same question. He said, Jake, what about you? What's the thing that you appreciate most about your boss? Which is the same person. It's important for you to know that Jake is a graphic designer. And Jake, he works with images. He works with, the graphics of the website, the graphics of different programs, the mock-ups for the different programs and services that they sell. And so to answer that question, Jake said, well, I guess I could kind of latch on to what Karen said. And I would say also that he knows how to communicate his messages to me too, because he knows that in order for me to really understand what he wants, I don't just need to hear it. I need to see it. And so in a practical sense, if he's at a distance, instead of just calling me on the phone, he might send me a video. He might send me a recorded screen or a screenshot or an image or a photo with some words to help me to understand what he wants. And if I'm sitting in front of him, then he might show me an image. He might draw it out for me as he's explaining it. And that's the way I understand the best, because I need to see what he wants. I can't just hear it. I need to see it. And then I can really understand what he's looking for. So why did I tell you this story? If you want to communicate effectively, and communication is such a broad topic, and when anyone talks about effective communication, it doesn't just mean to this specific situation, but this is an example of how you can communicate in an effective way. And so what do you need to do? First and foremost, if you want to communicate in an effective way, you need to understand who the person is that you have in front of you. Because if you communicate the same messages in the same way all the time to everyone, you just have to ask yourself one question. Is it likely that you explain the exact same thing in the exact same way to each one of these 10 people? What do you think the chances are that all 10 of these people are going to understand the same thing in the exact same way? It's probably not going to happen. And that's why if you know each person and what their style of receiving communication is and what their style of communication is, it's more likely that you're going to be able to communicate effectively with each and every one of those individual people. All right? So just a real short video just to get you to think. Like I always say, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I don't even know you. How could I tell you what to do? I'm just here to make you think. And so if you're looking for more ways to communicate effectively, then just subscribe to the channel because I got a lot more where that came from.